Hey everyone, good afternoon and welcome to the PivotBoss Closing Report for March 30th, 2016. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. We finally reached our 6021 target. That's the target we've been talking about ever since the lows here back in mid-February. If you go back to the tape there after the lows here on February 11th, we talked about the potential for a rejection of these lows, meaning a reversal back to 1941 with a shot at seeing a continuation back into the HV and above at 2061. I also talked about the idea that any rejection down here would imply a return back to an area where the market wants to see acceptance and a fair facilitation of trade. We finally got that move. We finally saw the completion of that move into 2061. I mentioned that we could see a little bit of spillage into 2077.5. That still may come. But one thing that I wanted to show off now is how prices have continued to step higher based off of the previous month's key levels. Here's the previous month's close, previous month's high. Price rallies right off the previous month's close, off the weekly pivot range, rallies through the previous month's high. And then you can see right here, just briefly, the session after, holds off that level and rallies. Holds off of the 25% monthly expansion target. That's the PivotBoss R25 target. Price pulls back to the monthly high. Remember, we talked about that level as a level that bulls wanted to defend for a continuation into 2061. So even as early as the day right here on the Draghi day right there, that's the ECB session. Basically, I mentioned that any pullback into the previous month's high should be defended for 2061s. And then once price pushed through that 25% level, look how it made its support, rallied into the 50% level right there. Pulled back off the 50% level, but held above 25 and is now starting to squeeze higher. The 75% level is here at 2084. So you can see how these PivotBoss pivots based off the previous month's range has been money. They've just been perfect as this price has stair-stepped higher in a very orderly manner. You like to see that with our analysis. So very solid the way this thing is played out. Again, I mentioned we could see this thing trade in a key range here after reaching this HVN. The market wants to trade this area and see acceptance, so we could see a trading range develop. At some point, we're going to see the market top out. We could see a little bit more strength here, but overall, we want to watch for some sort of range development. I don't think we'll see a slick reversal just yet. I think the market wants to trade in this zone. Looking at the intraday time frame, you can see here prices rallied overnight and then pulled back and held to 1252s and basically traded on highs in a digestion day. Very bullish digestion day for the most part. Given the overnight continuation from the rally. So again, this 2050, 2052 zone is an area where bulls are defending even down into the previous week's high for a shot higher. Failure to hold this level opens up a return back toward the weekly pivot range and value at 2025. All right, taking a look at crude oil. You can see right here, this was important. We talked about this the previous session here. We talked about two different things. One on the upper time frame and one on the lower time frame. Number one, this area right here, remember price came into it as resistance, pushed through it, tried to hold and failed there. Pulling back to that area was defended and we dropped. I mentioned that if prices can't get above the 40s, 40.12s, then you could be looking at some pressure here at 37.65 down below. That's going to be a big time area. I mentioned before that bulls want to defend this level on the next test. However, the fact that we saw a significant rejection on these highs implies that we could see some trapped bulls up here start to liquidate upon a break of these lows. So I would not attempt to test or to defend this range right now. As a matter of fact, if price pushes below 37.65, we could be headed right back to the lower HVN at 35.17. So right now, the fact that prices remain below 40 and saw rejections back at the pivot range implies that we could be looking expansion lower. So if we bring up the weekly PivotBoss pivots here they are. Now this is the weekly pivot range rejecting off that area right there. Let me look up the weekly high-low close. There it is. So here's the previous week's low. We're right on top of it. That's where bulls attempted to defend. But for the second and third straight sessions, 1, 2, 3, bears have defended the previous week's close and rejected price downward. So I think we could be looking at a push through this LVN back into the HVN below. So if prices cannot hold above 37.65s, we could be looking at expansion at each of these downside targets. The most likely target to end the week is going to be between 36.89 and 36.65, 36.55 rather. So with a continuation into 35.17 in the upcoming week. So it could be big. Obviously, there's bears up here defending, so any push beyond 40.20 opens up a retest of highs. Okay, looking at the intraday time frame just briefly here, you can see right here the overnight call that we talked about before was this rounded pattern. Above 38.65 was going to open up a door to 39.21 with a shot at rallying into 40.12. We saw that continuation play out nicely. However, we did not reach 40.12. We came just shy of it, and then price went big time offered through 5-day VPOC. Huge move all the way back down. That happened very, very quickly, and then price kind of just traded around 38.33. I mentioned before that a pullback to 38.33 offers an opportunity to defend for a swing move higher. However, price initially bounced off that zone and then kind of just fell apart and fell asleep. So that is no longer on the table right now. We have to see how this continues to play out. And again, if price can't hold above that LVN down below, this thing could be headed much lower. Okay, taking a look now at gold. We have a new contract. We rolled over to the June 2016 contract. So that's this M6 contract right here. The big thing I wanted to show here is that composite VPOC is now 1202 half. We have the key range that we're playing off of here is 1074.90 up to 1208.30. That's the key range here from the previous period of time. The midpoint is at 1141.60. Again, I go back to this saucer pattern to begin the year. This failed expansion below that key range low helped us identify a move back to the top here. And we got that and some. Now here's 1208.30. That's the top. Price held above it, and then recent rejection here at 1275s led us down to 1208s where we defended. So basically this 1275 is very similar to the 1272.40. This 1208.30 is very similar to the 1206s or the 1205.70s. So basically we have our key levels back. 1208.30 is being defended, as is the pivot range. Now one thing you'll notice also is look how steep this rally was and how wide this pivot range is. Anytime you see that, that would imply trading range behavior. We knew that heading into March, and now you can see how that's completed out. Now pullbacks are still defended. The only thing that's a little concerning right now is that we're seeing new lower highs on every rotation here, and we're seeing new lows on every rotation. So short term, we have a short-term downtrend in effect. And I still say before, this 1275, the fact that it was rejected several times implies a retest of that previous low, and that's going to be near the 1191s. We still haven't tested that zone, although we did bounce and rally into our primary target. So now that the primary target is off the table here, there's a last-ditch effort for bulls to defend 1221s and attempt to squeeze back into the 1265 to 1275 zone. Failure to hold above this 1202 half would be huge. You see all of these participants here? That's a lot of market participants in here. There's a lot of bulls and bears positioned. A breakout in either direction is going to spark the next unidirectional trending phase. And if price can't hold above the top of that range, that would be price taking value offered. If you're going to take composite value offered, the expectation would be for price to seek a price discovery phase into the next HVN below, and that's going to be 1274.90. So we've started the year with a big move up. We've seen our distribution phase. If price can't hold this level, it's clear away. We're likely going to get a 100% reversal all the way back. So keep that in mind as we head forward. Okay, looking at the NQ now. The NQ's been solid. This one here continues to be bullish. 43.55 continues to hold. You saw the move, and we were looking for a push as our primary target at 45.10 to 45.23, and that was basically reached today. So price went right in the middle of that range, and for all intents and purposes, we've reached our primary target for the week. Now there could be additional upside ahead. If we look at the weekly key levels here, on a pivot boss basis here, you can see that we basically went almost 100% expansion on the weekly pivot boss pivots, and that's only been 3 days here. There could be a little bit more price discovery up in the 12 into the 45.23s, and you see that right here, that's a 100% of ADR at 45.55. Now that's an average range for the week. So given that we still have a couple more days in the week, there could be a little more upside. However, any failure to hold above 44.41 kills the momentum and rotates this thing back into 43.55. All right, looking at the intraday time frame, one last thing here, we have this key range. I'm testing it out here. It wasn't perfect, but I wanted to see how this was going to play out. Basically, the low of the day here, 44.57, it goes up until it can't go anymore. It comes back to the midpoint. So the top, 10.75, the midpoint, 83.75. Those are basically the measurements on the day. I would watch that range right there because now we have key levels. And, watch the edges for any potential failed range expansion or any continuation and momentum in that direction. And now we're going to have our key levels to watch out for. Short term, 44.70, a big time LVN, that's where bulls are defending. Any failure to hold it opens up a shot at retesting the previous high at 44.41, and that's the big time level that bulls must defend. Otherwise, we could see much more weakness back toward 5-day VPOC at 43.91. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out the rest of the week. Good luck and trade well.